Have you ever felt like you were living your life in a waiting room? You wake up, you drink your tea, you go to work, and you come home. But the whole time there is a small, nagging voice in the back of your mind. It's whispering about the thing you haven't done yet, the dream you haven't started, the person you haven't become. You tell yourself, I'll start when things settle down. You tell yourself, I'll do it when I have more money, or when I feel more confident, or when the kids are older. But let me ask you a question that might hurt a little. How many tomorrows have you already used up? We treat the perfect time like it's a destination on a map. We think that if we just keep walking, we will eventually reach a place where the sun is always shining, our bank accounts are full, and our fear has vanished. We think that is the starting line. But look around you. The world doesn't wait. The seasons change without asking if you're ready. The trees don't wait for a perfect spring to grow their leaves. They simply respond to the light that is available now. If you are waiting for a sign, or a feeling of total certainty, or a moment of perfect peace before you begin, you aren't waiting for a start date. You are waiting for a life that doesn't exist. This is a story about the cost of waiting. It's a story about a man named Cassian, a quiet village, and the trap of the right moment. It is a story about you. Cassian was a man everyone liked, but nobody truly knew. He worked at the local grain mill, carrying heavy sacks of flour day after day. It was honest work. It paid for his bread and his roof. But Cassian had a secret. In the back of his mind, he wasn't a miller. He was a woodworker. He wanted to build furniture, not just chairs and tables, but heirlooms, pieces carved with the stories of the valley. He had books of designs he'd drawn by candlelight. He knew the grain of every tree in the forest. He knew exactly how he would carve the legs of a dining table to look like twisting vines. But Cassian was 40 years old. Every time he looked at his tools, a wave of doubt would wash over him. I'm too late, he would think. The master carpenters in the city started when they were boys. I've spent 20 years carrying flour. My hands are too stiff. My eyes are too tired. Cassian watched Thomas and felt a sharp, bitter pang in his chest. It wasn't hate, it was comparison. He looked at Thomas's stools and thought, I could make something 10 times more beautiful than that. If I had the right tools, if I had the right wood, if I had started 10 years ago. But because he didn't have the perfect setup, Cassian did nothing. He went home, ate his soup in silence, and looked at the dusty sheet in the corner. The pressure to start was there, but the fear of being a beginner at his age was even stronger. He felt like he was running a race where everyone else was already at the finish line, and he was still trying to find his shoes. Years passed in the blink of an eye. That's the thing about waiting. It's very quiet. It doesn't scream at you. It just whispers, not today, maybe tomorrow, until suddenly tomorrow has become 5 years ago. Cassian had a list of reasons why he couldn't start his workshop yet. First, it was the money. He needed to save enough for a high-quality lathe. He didn't want to start with second-hand tools. He wanted the best. So he worked extra hours at the mill, but the more he worked, the more tired he became, and the less energy he had to even think about wood. Then it was confidence. He told himself he needed to read more books, study more designs, and feel ready. He spent his nights reading by the fire, becoming an expert in theory, but his hands remained clean. Villager 1 said, "They say they're paying a fortune for wood carvers. Even the apprentices are making more than we do here in a month." Villager 2 said, "Thomas is going. He's closing his stall here and moving to the city. He's not the best, but he's brave enough to try." Cassian went home that night and felt a physical weight on his heart. He felt like a failure. Not because he wasn't a master, but because he hadn't even given himself the chance to fail. He looked at his savings, the coins he'd spent years hoarding for the perfect tools. He had enough. He'd had enough for a long time. But then a new fear arrived, the fear of what if? What if I buy the tools and I'm bad at it? What if I spend all this money and realize I've wasted my life dreaming of a talent I don't have? As long as I don't start, the dream stays perfect. If I start, the dream might break. He stood there in the dark, smelling the dust and the damp. He felt old. He felt foolish. He thought about all the missed chances, the festivals he didn't enter, the apprentice he could have been, the beauty he could have brought into the world. He realized that by waiting for the perfect moment to protect his pride, he had actually committed the greatest sin of all. He had wasted his time. It didn't happen with a burst of music or a flash of light. Elian just reached out and picked up a piece of scrap wood. It wasn't the fine cedar he'd imagined. It was just a piece of old pine left over from a fence repair. It was rough and knotted. He picked up a chisel, one that was slightly dull and had a bit of rust on the handle. He didn't wait to feel inspired. He didn't wait to feel ready. He just pushed the blade into the wood. His first cut was a mistake. He ruined the piece of wood. A year ago, that would have stopped him. He would have said, "See, I'm not ready. I need more practice." But today, Cassian just flipped the wood over and started again. He didn't quit his job at the mill. Not yet. He still carried the sacks. But now, when he worked at the mill, his mind was clear, because he knew that when he went home, he would be at the bench. He spent 3 months making a single chair. It wasn't the masterpiece he'd drawn in his notebooks. The legs were slightly uneven. The carving was a bit shaky in places. But when he sat in it, it held his weight. That chair was the most beautiful thing Cassian had ever seen. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. He had finally learned the secret that all creators eventually learn. Growth doesn't happen in the perfect moment. Growth happens in the mess. Growth happens when you are brave enough to be a beginner in front of everyone. Cassian wasn't late anymore. He was just a man who had started. And the moment he started, the 20 years he'd lost didn't matter anymore. All that mattered was the wood in his hands and the next cut. I want you to take a long, honest look at your life right now. What is your dusty workbench? What is the thing you've been keeping under a sheet because you're afraid of not being good enough yet? Maybe it's a business. Maybe it's a book. Maybe it's a conversation you need to have or a habit you need to break. I want to tell you 3 things that I hope you carry with you after this video ends. Lesson 1. The right time is a trap. There is no such thing as a perfect time. The world will always be a little bit chaotic. You will always be a little bit tired. You will always have a reason to wait. If you wait until all the lights are green before you leave your house, you will never leave the driveway. Lesson 2. Action is the only cure for fear. You cannot think your way into courage. You cannot read your way into confidence. Confidence is a gift you give yourself after you do the work. The fear doesn't go away before you start. It goes away while you're doing it. Lesson 3. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be to begin. Your past experiences, even the years you spent waiting, have given you a perspective that a younger version of you didn't have. Use that. Don't mourn the lost time. Honor it by making the most of the time you have left. The village didn't change. The mountains didn't move. But Cassian changed. He stopped being a man who wanted to be something, and he became a man who was something. If you're watching this, this is your sign. Not because the stars have aligned, but because you are still here. You still have breath in your lungs and a fire in your heart. Don't wait for the money to be perfect. Don't wait for the approval of people who aren't even running the race with you. Go to your workshop, pull off the sheet, pick up the tool, make the first cut. Let it be messy. Let it be bad. Just let it be real. Your life doesn't start tomorrow. It starts the moment you stop waiting for it to begin. Close this video, put down your phone, and go do the thing you were meant to do. Because the truth is simple and it will never change.